No, that's good. Just so.
Just trying to figure out what it is. Just pattern wise. I thought I know how to do it. I did it yesterday. Pattern. It'll be fine. Like, I'll get it.
You sure?
Yeah.
You want another workshop? Yeah. I mean, the truth is, like the stuff you pick across the board, the stuff that I like. So,
Great.
Anywhere, especially as you're getting towards the tail end of your time, they want to try like tonight. This is a good example.
Yeah.
So we'll just make sure we announce that page.
Yeah, I've got one for. Do you want the regular weekday morning page? Or you want the Shabbat morning page? I wrote down both.
We'll follow you, but I guess the Shabbat one. Why not?
Yeah.
Just keeping it Shabbat. Keeping it Shabbat. Okay.
I'm happy to explain that.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll do that once we get to there. You take over there.
Great.
Okay. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you, Linda. That was good and enthusiastic, which I appreciate very much. So just as a first word for those that were with us last night for our Interfaith Thanksgiving service, I appreciated seeing so many there. I'm sorry that we couldn't stream it or record it, but and I may have spoken out of turn, but I offered us to host for next year, so at least then I can guarantee that we can do that. But it was a I would say a powerful experience. It's something that actually every year to me, even the COVID years where we've done it, it's been important, but this year felt all the more so. And just really, again, gratitude to being part of the Sag Harbor community, which I really treasure. So as you can see this evening, those maybe at home can't see it, but we reserved the first two rows as has been happening in a number of congregations in a lot of different ways. It's the same way that we've set the second set of candles and a table out in the social hall, various ways of drawing attention to the plight of the captives, of the hostages still being held. And I'm particularly grateful to the Sachs family, Judge Sachs here and Phyllis and Marissa, who are sponsoring our Oneg tonight and really in solidarity with a reminder that, and as the weeks go by, certainly not for us, but a lot of the world seems to have forgotten. And so even in these, what may seem small ways, in the ways that we and all of the Jewish communities around the world are continuing to remember and to lift up the plight of these people, again, children, women, elderly, Holocaust survivors, and soldiers. So tonight we are holding them in our hearts throughout the service, certainly. And it's really my privilege to welcome up Phyllis and Marissa, who are going to light and bless both sets of our Shabbat candles. That blessing can be found on page 120. On page 120. And Phyllis, I'll bring it over there. So we did both sets. It's a little tricky. You want to try it, Marissa, and see if you can pull it off? If not, I'll. Yeah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Amen.
Watch the tzitz.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen.
Thank you, bro. All right, just careful coming down. So we'll turn now to page 130 to begin our Kabbalat Shabbat service. Again, page 130, L'chuna Ranana at the very top of the page. on page 131, Shiru Ladonai, just in the middle of the page.
Let's go to Yisrael at the bottom of the paragraph. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yiram hayam, yiram hayam, yiram hayam, umelo'o. Yiram hayam, yiram hayam, yiram hayam, umelo'o. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz.
Turn now to page 132, or Zarua, towards the very bottom of the page.
Or Zarua, la tzadik, u'lishrei lev simcha. Or Zarua, la tzadik, u'lishrei lev simcha. Or Zarua, la tzadik, u'lishrei lev simcha. U'lishrei lev simcha. Or Zarua, la tzadik, u'lishrei lev simcha. U'lishrei lev simcha. Yalai, 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 yalai,
We'll turn now to page 134 at the very top of the page.
Zamru l'Adonai bechinor, bechinor v'kol zimra, v'chatzotzrot v'kol shofar, ha'ariu lifnei hamelech Adonai, yiram hayam u'melot, tevel v'yoshvei Tzedek ve'amim ve'meisharim, Yiram hayam u'melot, tevel ve'yoshvei var, neharot imcha u'chaf yachad, harim yiranenu.
We're now on page 135.
Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu ve'hagosho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu ve'hagosho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu.
חבוד להר קודשו.
Turn now to Lechado D on page 138, and a reminder that we will continue with our change of minhag of not dancing at the last paragraph, but we will, of course, rise as we always do and face towards the doors that we entered for that final paragraph. Again, page 138.
לחדותי לקראת כלה, שבת נקבלה. 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 שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשמו תפארת ולתהילה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה, כל מצאים מתוך ההפכה. רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה, והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התנערי מעפר קומי, לבשי בגדי תפארתך עמי. על יד בן ישי בית הלחמי, קרבה אל נפשי גאלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, ידדי ידדי ידדי, פני שבת נקבלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, ידדי ידדי ידדי, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי. אורי, אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, ידדי ידדי ידדי, פני שבת נקבלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, ידדי ידדי ידדי, פני שבת נקבלה. לא תבושי ולא תכרמי, מה תשמעי תשתוכחי ומתהמי בך יחסו עניי אבי ונפצע עיר אל תילה לך דודי לי כת קלה ידדי 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 בני שבת מקבלה לך דודי לי כת קלה ידדי 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 בני שבת מקבלה היו למשיסה שוסייך ורחקו כל ממלאייך יסיס עלייך אלוהייך כמסוס חתן על כלה לך דודי לי כת קלה ידדי 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 בני שבת מקבלה לך דודי לי כת קלה ידדי 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 בני שבת מקבלה ימין ושמאל תפרוצי ואת אדוני תעריצי על יד איש בן פרצי ונשמחה ונגילה לך דודי לי כת קלה ידדי 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 בני שבת תקבלה לך דודי לי כת קלה ידדי 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 בני שבת נקבלה בואי ושלום עטרת בלה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה לך דודי לי כת קלה ידדי 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 בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לי כת קלה ידדי 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 בני שבת נקבלה.
We'll turn now to page 140.
צדיק כתמר יפרח כארז בלבנון יזכה שתולים בבית אדוני בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו עוד ינובון בשיבה ושנים ורעננים יהיו בהגים כי ישר אדוני צורי ולא עוולת בו.
We'll turn now to the Chatzi Kaddish on page 144. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה,
אמן.
רבה דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי,
בחייכון
וביומכון, וחיי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב. ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח, ויתבר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשא בריחו, לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירן בהמה, ואמרו אמן. We rise in body or spirit for the Baruch Hu on page 146. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Please be seated. We'll turn now to page 149. We'll read together in English at the very top of the page. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'ma'ariv Aravim.
Amen. We'll turn now to page 150 at the very top. Or sorry, very bottom of the page. We'll read together in English. Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel.
כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגע יומם ולילה, ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני echad.
Please join us on page 154. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך, ושוכבך ובקומך, ושרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים אלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, Adonai Elohechem, Emet.
As we turn to Michamocha, I would like to offer an alternate text. The poet Yehuda Amichai, the Israeli poet Yehuda Amichai, sets a text that is typically on the left side of the page for Michamocha. Unfortunately, when I looked for Shabbat evening, it is not on that left side of the page, but for Shabbat morning and for weekday morning it is. So I'm going to ask everybody to actually flip to page 241 for the time being. And there on the left side of the page, on the bottom half, you will see this poem that I will just quickly read out. And what is my lifespan? I'm like a man gone out of Egypt. The Red Sea parts, I cross on dry land. 2 walls of water on my right and on my left. Pharaoh's army and his horsemen behind me. Before me, the desert, perhaps the promised land too. That is my lifespan. And I thought that, especially seeing as we're especially thinking of the hostages right now, instead of offering Imi Chamocha, I wanted to offer this setting and this text to really to honor where they're at. There is a part that feels a lot more free, and it's a part I want to teach all of you, and I want you to have on close, so that once we get through these 2 walls of water, once we reach that point, we can all sing out joyously. So that part goes like this.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Try that.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Go.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Great.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Same as the first.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
A little high, but I think you can get it.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Let's try to put it all together.
Whoa, 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 whoa,
What is my lifespan?
I'm like a person gone out of Egypt. The Red Sea parts, I cross on dry land. 2 walls of water on my right and on my left hand. Pharaoh's army, his horsemen behind me. Before me, the desert, perhaps the promised land too. That is my life, is my lifespan. Whoa, 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 whoa,
I got it by the end there. That's impressive, man. To be able to teach it that quickly, that's a testament to your ability as a teacher and a singer. It's beautiful. So we're going to turn now to Hashki Venu. Let's give you a break, but we can't give you a break just
No,
yet.
we're fine.
We're on page
160.
160. Page 160.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'chaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu לחיים. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם. השתיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים.
Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Yerushalayim. Turn to Vishamru now on top of page 162.
שמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת בתורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת שבת ויהי נפש.
Invite us now to rise in body or in spirit as we begin the Amidah together on page 164. From that point on, as always, we'll continue silently. Please go at your own pace, and when you're finished, if at the end you're still standing, you may be seated.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agi teilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. say shalom b'meroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'akol yoshvei tevet. Ve'imeru amen. Ve'imeru amen. Ve'imeru amen. Ve'imeru amen. Osei shalom b'meroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevet. Ve'imeru amen. Ve'imeru amen.
We turn now to page 371 as we prepare to offer our Mishaberach, our healing prayer for this evening. We'll begin by thinking of those in our community and those closest to our community who we know are in need of healing tonight. Abigail Blum, Bensi Tepper, Allison Luckman, Michael Klinghoffer, Amy and Warren Cass, Rivka Bat Rachel, Leah Bat Naomi, Lorraine Danis, David Dowling, Sylvia Devora Bat Francis, Muriel Hirsch, Michelle Sawicki, Francis Kirschman, Shelley Newmark, Diane Axelrod, Gabriella Spicer, Barbara Kushner, David Kyle Klopman, Lorraine Davis, Richard Gambino, Kim Birnbaum, Deborah Block-Kroll, Sylvia Orn, Tora Matsuoka, Lori Nisanoff, Aaron Borabach, Carol Javna, Tikva Bat Avram, Philip Wessler, Paul Wax, Donald Borabach, Devora Batsima, Sarah Story, Barbara Schwab, Alan Zaretsky, Leslie Schifrin, Charlie Zweig, Michael Rosenblatt, Trish Schapp, Sue Wartor, Ann Baker, and Jeffrey Schwartz. In addition to those names that I just read, we're also going to now take a few moments of silence for us to pray for anyone else that we are thinking of this evening, and also, of course, to pray for our family, our friends in the land of Israel. We'll join together with Cantor Kevin in the middle of page 371.
Of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen.
And as we have been doing for the last several weeks, I'm going to add an additional prayer. The last few weeks, we've been reading a separate prayer for the captives, a separate prayer for the IDF. I want to share tonight a prayer that was written by a famous professor at Brandeis University, Rabbi Reuven Kimmelman. And he writes the following. This is an adaptation of existing prayers, a prayer for Israel in time of war. Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu, our God and God of our ancestors, you know that the Jewish people are one nation with one heart, and today that heart is broken. With the grim news of so many of our sisters and brothers in Israel killed, wounded, and kidnapped, we turn to you. O healer of broken hearts, binder of their wounds, as it says in the Psalms. Be with our brothers and sisters who have been taken captive, and with the families of the victims. Watch over the hostages, break their bonds, and bring them out from darkness to light. Proclaim release to the captives, liberation to the imprisoned, you said in Isaiah. Comfort the families of all those murdered, bring them under the shelter of your wings. Bring complete healing of body and spirit to all of the wounded, bind up the wounds and grant us healing. Tzur Yisrael v'goalo rach, and Redeemer of the people of Israel, bless the state of Israel, the initial manifestation of our redemption. Shield it with your care, spread over it your shelter of peace. Guide its leaders and advisors with your light and your truth. Guide them, grace them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Crown their efforts with victory. Bless the land with peace, its inhabitants with lasting joy. Shomer Yisrael, guardian of Israel, strengthen and bless the defenders of Israel, who stand guard over our land, on the land, in the air, and on the sea. May we see the promise of the psalmist. You turned my mourning into dancing, my sackcloth into robes of joy. God protect, preserve, and restore peace and well-being to Israel, your people. And together we say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So in thinking again, it's not as if our focus has shifted at all, but to refocus our attention certainly on the plight of the hostages, I thought it was important that we actually take a little time to understand what is a central mitzvah in Judaism, one that thankfully for most of the last century or so we have not had to consider too much, but throughout our history has become the moment of great necessity to understand the mitzvah of Pidyon Shvu'im. So the mitzvah of Pidyon Shvu'im is in essence the mitzvah, the commandment, the expected obligation to redeem captives. The word Pidyon means redemption. Shvu'im is a word for captives, for those taken hostage. This is a mitzvah that has its origins certainly in the Talmud, but most likely, again, was a concept that predates it ever being written down or codified into the Mishnah. So, as is often the case, if you're trying to understand a piece of Jewish law, and I learned this actually from a law professor, that in general, if you're trying to understand common law, you don't go back to the first law, you go to the most recent case, because the most recent case is going to show you the work, right? In other words, show you all of the proof texts, all of the laws that led to whatever the most recent decision ultimately is. So I'm not going to go to the most recent decision, but I'm going to go to one of the most authoritative, which is Maimonides. Maimonides, again, writing amongst his many efforts, writes and gives the Jewish world one of the first codes of Jewish law, an attempt to take a wide range of texts and bring them into one place in which a Jewish person can look and find answers as to what one is meant to do. So in the section, interestingly enough, that is dedicated to gifts to the poor, okay, so it's important to understand that the mitzvah Pidyon Shvu'im really falls onto a meta-category of an act of tzedakah. Now, tzedakah, for most of us, we translate as charity, right, as giving of money. That is an act of tzedakah, but tzedakah is an act of righteousness. Okay, so the act of Pidyon Shvu'im is really, again, is under the umbrella idea of an act of tzedakah, an act of righteous doing. So in this section of gifts to the poor, Maimonides addresses it, and he addresses it quite clearly. He says, the redemption of captives, Pidyon Shvu'im, receives priority over sustaining the poor and providing them with clothing. Indeed, there is no greater mitzvah than the redemption of captives. So it's quite a significant jump from the first statement to the next, but it is a point of emphasis, and he's not coming from nowhere. He'll explain. We won't get into every detail of how he explains it, but he's drawing ultimately from the wisdom of the rabbis of the Talmud in a section of Masechet Bava Batra. who go into a great conversation about exactly this and trying to understand just how important this act is. So why is that the case, right? Why is it more important than our mitzvah, our obligation to sustain the poor, to feed the poor, to give them clothing? Rambam explains that because basically all of the different aspects of charitable gifts, all of those things that are given under tzedakah, are included within the redemption of captives. For a captive is among those who is hungry, who is thirsty, who is unclothed, and in particular is in mortal peril. For at any time, the captor may decide to take their life. And if someone pays no attention to that person's redemption, to the redemption of that captured person, that person who pays no attention violates first negative commandments. And now again, he's going to show his work. The first being, in Deuteronomy, do not harden your heart or close your hand. The second, Leviticus, the holiness code, do not stand by when the blood of your neighbor is in danger. And third, Leviticus 25, he shall not oppress him with exhausting work in your presence. And not only that, if a person has not gone out of their way to again fulfill this obligation of Pidyon Shvuim, he has negated the observance also of positive commandments, not just of not fulfilling, but also of violating positive commandments. In Deuteronomy, you shall certainly open up your hand to him. Again, in Deuteronomy chapter 19, and your brother shall live with you, emphasizing the word live. In Leviticus, love your neighbor as yourself, quite literally. Proverbs, save those who are taken for death. And many other decrees of this nature, he said. There is no mitzvah as great as the redemption of captives. Now, in typical Jewish fashion, I'm going to give you a text that makes that much more complicated. Seems very straightforward, right? If there's no mitzvah that's greater, then we should know, okay, there is no end to which we wouldn't go in order to release captives. Okay? But there is another teaching in the Talmud, actually going all the way back to the Mishnah, which tells us that actually it's, like most things in life, not quite so simple. In the Mishnah, in Masechet Gitin, which is the section of the Talmud of the Mishnah that deals with the get, with the ritual rite of divorce. So the Mishnah says, the captives are not redeemed for more than their actual monetary value. Now why? This is the one that will shock you. Mipnei tikkun olam. Mipnei tikkun olam. For the sake of the betterment of the world. Okay, so hold that in mind for a second, because I'm sure, at least to me when I read that, it was quite shocking. Right? We're being told that actually it's not an absolute. In some cases there is a finite amount. There's a point in which you can't go any further. And why we're told? Because of the words tikkun olam, the last thing we would ever think to associate with something like this. Some of you may remember the sermon I gave not so long ago explaining the origins of tikkun olam, not quite what we understand it to be now. Okay? So it continues. And one may not aid the captives in their attempt to escape from their captors. Mipnei tikkun olam, for the betterment of the world. Why? So that the kidnappers will not be more restrictive with their captives to prevent them from escaping. In other words, if you help, say, a few people to escape, then those that remain are going to be put into worse positions, right? They're going to be chained even more for fear that they will be released. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says that in the end, it's not a question of mipnei tikkun olam, but for the betterment of the captives, so that the kidnappers will not avenge the escape of the captives by treating other captives with cruelty. So the Gemara, the rabbis a few generations later, ask a number of questions, of which I'll only address a few. A dilemma was raised before the sages with regards to this expression, for the betterment of the world. Is it due to the financial pressure of the community? In other words, what tikkun olam is indicating in this case is about a sort of an equilibrium within the community. And there is a practical reality to this, in which if you are paying, for example, above and beyond, and it bankrupts an entire village in the process, is that the question at hand? That's one of the questions the rabbis consider. Or is the concern that the increase in price will lead to the community assuming financial pressures it will not be able to manage? Or perhaps it's because the result of this will be that they will not seize and bring additional captives. In other words, if you pay above and beyond, then it will become a lucrative business, and they'll think we'll kidnap more and more and more. So the Gemara rabbis say, actually, we have to be more thoughtful about it. You can't redeem them all. And the Mishnah teaches again, one may not aid the captives in their attempt to escape from their captors for the betterment of the world. And Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says for the betterment of the captives. The Gemara asks, what is the difference between the two reasons given? And the Gemara answers, there is a difference between them when there is only one captive. If this ordinance was instituted for the benefit of the other captives, so that the kidnapper should not avenge a captive's escape by treating the others with cruelty, then there is only one captive to begin with. One may help him to escape. But if it was instituted so that kidnappers in general will not act restrictively with their captives, it would be prohibited in this case as well. In other words, if you're dealing with one person, some of these ideas apply. But if you're dealing with a group of people, perhaps a large group of people, it changes the dynamics. So to summarize all of this, the Mishnah that we just read in Gittin, the section of the Talmud, says that one may not redeem captives for more than their value, and that this law was codified by all the standard codes of Jewish law. Okay, this became the absolute understood practice. Okay, however, as is typical again of rabbis, even though that was the halakha, even that was the understood law, that's what was in the codes, many Talmudic sages, and ultimately many sages to follow, found all sorts of ways to circumvent this Mishnah, the one that tells you not to put limits on, or to put limits on, right? In other words, not to exchange for an exorbitant amount or anything beyond. And ultimately created all sorts of exceptions. For example, if the person is a great sage, or if the individual, right, rather than the whole community ends up paying for it, then it's fine. In other words, they find various loopholes to this Mishnah, but the Mishnah stands. And so it's a reminder to us of a number of things. First is how hard it is for those who are in the room making decisions as they are making them, I promise you, right now, about the life of those that are held captive, the lives of the soldiers who may be put in harm's way to find them. These decisions that are being considered in rooms that we are not a privy to are some of the hardest decisions that anybody in the world will ever have to make. All of us, I know, are deeply concerned. All of us wish that we could do more. We have to have a certain understanding that those that are in the position to make those decisions are thinking deeply about each decision that they make. That the prayer that we just offered before for the leaders of the state of Israel is not a prayer in vain. It is a prayer of seriousness. It is one in which we have to acknowledge the hard decisions that have already been made and some more that are likely to be made in the future. But I have to point out that one of the things that distinguishes the conversations of the rabbis in the Talmudic era and even in the medieval period, when kidnappings were taking place in those days, it was a business transaction. It wasn't just Jews, it was a common practice in a lot of parts of the world. If you were wealthy and you were traveling, you could be at risk of being kidnapped, and therefore redeeming was part of the expectation. It was an expectation, so much so that the rabbis of the Talmud and Maimonides, they talk about actually what the value in the market is of a human being. They already know what it is, and they already know historically that Jews always paid above whatever the amount was in the local market. But in those circumstances, as I said, people weren't being kidnapped by terrorists. It wasn't children and elderly people. It wasn't people who are infirmed. It wasn't women. It wasn't for the sake of achieving some political victory. As crass and as cruel as it was in those days, all of this thinking was in a different world in a different time. And right now, I assure you that the leaders of the state of Israel consider every single one of those lives of infinite value. That there is no value that anyone is placing on any of their lives. And that the consideration of whatever deals may or may not be made in the future, I promise you, is not made disassociated from the halakha, from the laws of our tradition, but also not being fixed to them either. To understanding that each individual circumstance is one that has to be considered and weighed. And that when we offer our prayers as we have tonight, when we do things like this, it's not a small gesture. It may seem so, but it's not. Because one of the key understanding principles, as Maimonides points out, within this meta concept of Pidyon Shvuim, of the obligation of redeeming captives, is the inherent value of human beings, the inherent value of our people, the inherent value, really, of all people. and the consideration that while politics matter a great deal, while things will be out of our control in terms of, again, what is negotiated and what is given up, that in the end, the question of who these people are, these are real people with real names, with real lives. Okay, they're not just a number. We don't just group them together. This is really the essence of who we are as a people, is to not forget, to never forget that they are suffering, that they need us, that they need our voice, that they need it here tonight, that they need it on Monday when offices open, that you can call leaders of our communities, leaders of our country. When we offer prayers, and we're supposed to offer them actually multiple times a day, thanking God for being a redeemer of captives. We're not expecting God to magically make it happen. We're reminding ourselves of our obligation, of the word mitzvah, of its commanded nature. And while we ourselves are not in the position to make decisions, we are very much in the position to show our solidarity in ways both big and small, in ways symbolic and ways practical. So tonight, before you leave, I hope that you will take a moment to really think, what is it that you can do practically, spiritually, symbolically, what it is that we can do. And I think, to me tonight, as it has been every night, I go to sleep thinking especially of those children. And we hope and pray, through the grace of God, through the wisdom of the leadership of the State of Israel, through the work of soldiers in the field, and through, we hope, the wisdom and the grace of those who have the power to release, that each and every one of them who are still with us, who are still alive, will be returned to their families, returned to their homes. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will. Amen. I invite us now to rise as we turn to page 586. At the very bottom of the page, Aleinu L'Shabbat.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 591.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Ask those in mourning, those observing yahrzeit, to please remain standing. Everyone else may be seated at this time. I think first of those who passed in our community in recent months: Isabel Becker, Bert Bitterman, Julian Busgang, Morty Schwatzky, Beverly Deshevsky, Deborah Fogarty, Jerry Goldsmith, Dr. Sam Gould, Sandy Greenwald, Dorothy Klein, Sean Leibowitz, Dr. Samuel Moskowitz, Jeffrey Nagelberg, Marvin Schreier, Barbara Strasser, Fanya Verrett, and David Weinstein. We also mark the yahrzeits that occurred during the last week for Harold Adler, Jerome Alpern, Abraham Blasenheim, Florence Braz, Oscar Brill, Erwin Daniels, Deborah de Rothschild, Nathaniel Dror, Herbert Fabricant, Florence Feinstein, Carol Goldblatt, Julius Goldfarb, Esther Greenberg, Pincus Grossman, Fanny Halpern, Morris Kellman, Dora Koffler, Evelyn Lauder, Rollin Graham Mason, Elias Riss, Louis Rossick, William Scavron, Teresa Spitz, Harry Tiemann, Irvin Weller, Samuel White, and Hannah Zuckerman. In addition to those names that I just read, is anyone else saying Kaddish for anyone in their family that they'd like to mention? We'll now give the opportunity for those that choose to rise and join in the Mortar's Kaddish to remember the lives that have been taken in Israel. Again, page 598. V'yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Ve'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. V'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi shemei Rabbah mevarach la'alam li'almei almai. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudsha b'richu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata ta'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav huyaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen.
Amen.
Zichronam livracha, may every one of their memories be for a blessing. Please be seated. Shabbat shalom, everyone. So I don't think we have a guest reader for this evening, and rather than make Ron do extra work, Ron, you're going to stay right there. I'm going to do the announcements tonight. I know you would jump in, but I'll do them. Our first announcement is to thank very much Judge Sachs, Phyllis, Marissa. Thank you so much for sponsoring our Oneg tonight. Again, and drawing our solidarity to those who are still held captive. And we appreciate as soon as our service is done, we'll all have a chance to go next door. And again, there is information on the table also, again, that we learned from Rabbi Morris during our call this week. 1 minute a day is an opportunity. It's a website that helps you make phone calls, again, lobbying those who are in power to be able to do more to work towards the release of those hostages. So if you have any questions about that or you'd like to know more, please let me or Shelley know next door. Also, a reminder that we do have services tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock here at the temple. Of course, you can join us online as well, followed by a Kiddush and Torah study at 12 o'clock. Also, a reminder to join us on Sundays and Wednesdays at 9:30 a.m. for our lay-led morning minyan, in person or on Zoom. Our morning minyan is in response to the war in Israel. The Zoom link can be found in the temple's email that went out at 5 o'clock today. We also want to thank everyone, as I said at the beginning, thank you all that joined us for our interfaith Thanksgiving service here in Sag Harbor last night, which was really quite a beautiful experience. Also a reminder that we will be hosting our first Maureen's Haven homeless shelter on Sunday, November 26th at the Bridgehampton Child Care and Recreation Center on the Bridgehampton Sag Harbor Turnpike. Please do sign up to volunteer. You can cook a dish, serve the dinner, do cleanup. There's lots of things that can be done. It's a great activity, especially if you have young people in your household. Great thing to get them involved. Sign up was included in our Thursday temple email. If for any reason you're not getting that email, by the way, I've heard a few people it's going to their spam. Let us know, let Shelley know. We want to make sure everybody's getting that weekly sign up as well. Also a reminder that this Sunday at 2 o'clock is our Women's Rosh Chodesh meeting, at which will be at the temple. And I have one additional thing to do, but Cantor, is anything from your world that we should know about? When is your senior recital? We should probably get that on people's...
Not for a while,
Not
but
for a while.
April 10th, if you want to start saving the date now.
I do. I want to, we're excited, especially given how you're saying tonight, man. We want to hear that. We want to be there to support you. So April 10th, we'll remember. I did just quickly, before we do our closing song in Kiddush and Motzi, I wanted to share just two things, thanks to Shelley, who collected this. We had a few of our members who were at the march on Tuesday and wanted to share just a little bit of what they shared of their experience. So Daniela Andrews, who's a mother of several of our Hebrew school students who are now grown up and off in college and doing things, which is crazy. So Daniela wrote that attending the Washington, D.C. rally for me was like a beacon of light and promise of hope after the dark days of the past few weeks. It was such a lovely feeling to be surrounded by all of the love and support. A highlight for me was standing in the crowd of thousands and listening to the Israeli music over the loudspeakers. It may sound strange, but I actually felt a true sense of peace. I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to attend. Am Yisrael Chai, the people of Israel live. And there's little emojis with a flag and a heart, so she was serious. I also want to share from Marley Slotkin, who was one of our Hebrew school students who is now a senior at Temple? Senior at Temple in Philadelphia. And we've had the privilege of really watching her grow as well. And she wrote this. I am Marley, a senior at Temple University. I had the amazing experience of going to the March for Israel in D.C. yesterday, November 14th. I went alongside 17 fellow students from Temple University's Hillel. It was so moving to be among that many people in our nation's capital, rallying behind Israel. We all sang HaTikva and the Shema together for Israel, and it was truly beautiful. It felt amazing to be around the 290,000 or so who shared our common goal of supporting Israel. So I appreciate very much that they were there and that they shared those recollections and feelings. And Shelley, thank you for making that arrangement for sure. I know we were all there, certainly in spirit. I know many were watching at home as well. So Cantor, let's close our service before Kiddush and Motzi. What would you like to sing tonight?
Page 642, something I've only played on piano and never on guitar. A Jeff Klepper and Dan Freelander original at the top of the page. Again, 642. Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai yevarech et amo, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom, v'shalom, Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai yevarech et amo.
Arise for Kiddush on page 123. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hakafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabat kodsho b'yahava uvratzon inchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom techila lemikrae kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim, ibanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol hamim, ve'shabat kodshecha, ve'ahava uvratzon inchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Amen. Chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom. Please come next door.